Good morning, all of you. So, welcome you all in this platform. And today is our second edition of this cover topics through PYQs or previous year question. Just a second. Previous year question. So, we are targeting OAS Prelims 2023. As you know, notification is about to come, and we should prepare comprehensively with respect to those topics and topics with the help of previous year question paper. So let's begin. And before we proceed, let me tell you one thing. This Diwali discount or offer is going on. If you want to join, if you want to have a comprehensive preparation, आप यदि comprehensive prepare करना चाह रहे हैं, so you can join this and you can use this code Diwali to get a discount with respect to this foundation batch. Okay, so prelims as well as the mains दोनों को cover की जाएगी, so you can join this. So let's begin. Yesterday we started the first edition of this, and in that first edition of the first set of question discussion, we covered the topic planning or economic planning or 5-year plan as such. So with respect to or related to that planning, we have decided to discuss today another topic, that is economic growth and economic development. Economic growth and economic development. Okay, so let's see what is the previous year question paper or the questions the OPSC or the commission has asked, and what are the difference between this economic growth and development. I will discuss with you through this question, or when we discuss this question, I will come to this difference or any such similarity, because these topics are very much significant as far as your prelims and mains are concerned. Okay, so let's begin. You can see the first question on the screen. The first question is, economic growth is said to be inclusive. So again, this is asking what the inclusive growth. Inclusive growth is a topic which is given in your mains syllabus. Main syllabus रे गोटे topic आपनकर अछि, that is inclusive growth. Yes or no? तेणु inclusive growth केमिति economic growth ठारू different, how again it is different from economic development. Today we will discuss that, because it's not that economic development was not there earlier. तो यदि economic development थिला, पुणी थरे inclusive growth a concept, why it was introduced. And yesterday also we have seen that 11th 5-year plan, the theme was on this inclusive growth. Chalandu. First, let's see the question. Economic growth is said to be inclusive when it generates more foreign exchange from exports, it creates economic opportunities along with ensuring equal access to it, it causes larger segment of the people to remain outside the mainstream economy, it earns the highest share of GDP from the service sector. If you see all options, you will find this option, that is creates economic opportunities along with ensuring equal access. It is most appropriate option with respect to this question. It is more appropriate option. If you see what exactly the definition of inclusive growth, if you want to define the definition ta kono, economic growth that is distributed fairly across society. Distributed fairly. जेमती आपण जो कॉन्सेप्ट जानिथिबे, जदि केक रो साइज जेते बड़ होबो, ऑटोमेटिकली कोन आइडिया होची कोन, से जो केक रो साइज जेते बड़ होबो, जो साइज ऑफ द पाई विल अगेन इंक्रीज. तो एठी से कोन कहूची ना, इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ दैट इज डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड fairly across society and creates opportunity for all. So that is meaning of what we call the inclusive growth. Now, what exactly this economic growth is a quantitative aspect. Economic growth means what? the goods and services produced in the economy in a particular year, or technically speaking, the value of goods and services produced in an economy in a particular given period of time. So when we say value of goods and services, that means आमे कौन कैलकुलेट करूचे मॉनिटरी वैल्यू ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज इन द इकोनॉमी. ये मॉनिटरी वैल्यू कौन सिंपल गोटे सरल भाषा मुझे जदि कहबी तेबे सपोज 100 यूनिट्स ऑफ गुड्स आर प्रोड्यूस्ड इन द इकोनॉमी and then what is the then GDP, you can simply multiply with their price. Okay, so that is what we call the economic growth. Then the economic growth again hame kon dekhito the rate of change in GDP. GDP is considered as an indicator. Bartaman jemti amaro gross value added bhi asi galani. From 2015 onwards, the calculation has been shifted from GDP to this GBA model. That is something a separate issue when we'll discuss in detail. Hame discuss kariba the methodology. But as far as this question point of view, it is simple kon pacharuchi inclusive growth ro mane kon. Tome economic growth hoji kebolo se kohuchi ki keteti goods and services produce hochi economy re. This economic growth does not bother about how much or in what way that economic growth has been distributed. Economic growth mu jemti कहली, it's a quantitative aspect. It signifies or it depicts what ketati goods and services produce hoji tara monetary value kono. If you shift to the economic development in the sense it's a overall development. It's an overall development. When we say overall development, it considers not only this goods and services, it also considers, let's say, education. Let's say the health, overall human development is part of this. We should bother about the poverty reduction, employment generation or reduction of unemployment. So these are different or overall aspect with respect to economic development. So if economic growth is a quantitative aspect, economic development is a qualitative aspect. So this is the difference between these two concepts. And again, let me tell you, economic development concept aguru thila. Then what is the need of this inclusive growth? Economic growth jaha we achieved, let's say till 1990, let's say, and 1990 pore bhi, after 1990, we have seen the two phases of the economy basically. Till 1990, we have seen this dominance of the public sector, and after 1990, we have seen the dominance of the private sector under this LPG reform. But in these two phases, what we have seen, jo growth hotila, jo economic growth we have achieved, that was not in that case, or that was not in a proper manner, was distributed among the people. So economic development concept jo thila agru, it was there, but that was not fructified in case of India's developmental model, in case of India's economic growth. So that is the reason we came with this idea of inclusive growth. And what inclusive growth says? Inclusive growth says we have to include all those individuals in this economic growth model, all those individuals, and we have to give equal opportunity. This is talking about what? Creates opportunity for all. Creates opportunity for all. No one should be deprived to get an opportunity. So that is what exactly the meaning of inclusive growth. So keep this in your mind. Two aspects of inclusive growths are there. The first aspect is what? This distribution. You can say how this government is distributing. Government kemite distribute koruchi. Government is distributing through what? Through this, let's say, taxation policy. Let's say different welfare schemes. So one aspect is the distribution. The other aspect is creating equal opportunity. Opportunity in terms of what? Employment. Opportunity in the participation of the economic activities. Opportunity in terms of education, in terms of health. So these are what we call the inclusive growth. Okay, so inclusive growth is nothing but the economic growth should be redistributed, number one. Number two is it should create opportunity for all sections, all individuals in the society. Now moving forward. The next question, which one of the following can be considered as a step towards achieving financial inclusion in India? Financial inclusion, what is the meaning of it? Financial inclusion is a part of your inclusive growth. Now, what exactly the meaning of financial inclusion? Financial inclusion, if you define in a very simpler manner, it simply says that every individual should come under the banking network. Every individual should have an access to the banking network or banking services. If you see throughout the banking history of our country, if you can recall this 1969, the nationalization, again the second phase of nationalization we have seen in 1980s. So why this nationalization thing happened? One aspect is the government of India was a kind of socialistic in nature, more orientation toward the socialism. That was one aspect. But the prime objective with respect to this, what we call the nationalization of bank in 1969 and 1980 was with respect to the government wanted to provide easy credit facilities to different sections of the society. Jitole private the government saw the data that those deprived sections, they could not get the adequate amount of credit, or they were not getting adequate amount of credit. That is the reason we decided, let's nationalize it. Kahinki? Now, private individuals or private banks, they do not want to take the risk, because deprived section, suppose farmers, those let's say small business, there is a kind of apprehension among the banks कि बोध हुए semane कौन करिवे, they cannot repay the loan back. That's why the government went with the nationalization process. So financial inclusion means one thing you just keep in your mind, that every individual should come under the banking network. That is the reason the government once decided, let's open this zero frill account. No minimum balance is required to open an account. And we started this Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana as well. So that was the main reason, and that is the reason banking reform came in these years. जो normal commercial banks थिला से तो थिला ही, ता छड़ा we came with this small finance bank. Operation cost will be less. We came with this, let's say, this payment banks as well. So that was the reason why this financial inclusion was given so much importance, because a lot number of people, they do not have the bank account. So bank account jodi nahi, if government is trying to provide any such government benefits schemes with respect to the cash transfer and all, then government is not able to provide that benefit. So every individual, suppose scholarship the school students, so every individual should have the bank account so that the government can provide them benefits. Okay, so what do we call this? Is the financial inclusion. So as a step towards achieving financial inclusion in India, privatization of all the nationalized commercial banks, opening of branches of all commercial banks in mega cities, discontinuation of the practice of opening accounts by commercial banks with zero balance. Actually, this line, this statement I was talking about, but this is saying that discontinuation. No, we have to continue more of such schemes. Then adoption of villages by bank branches. Then if you see these four options, then the option D seems to be correct. Kahinki na village area re, rural area re, jehetu commercial banks mane tangaro they do not want to, there is no incentive for them to open more bank branches. Kahinki operational cost high tha. Sethipai, if banks or this villagers or rural area, they do not have a bank branch nearby their village or nearby their household. तेणु बहुत दूर से मन को travel करते, travel a lot to get a banking service. So we have different schemes and all. तेणु option, if you see, the adoption of villages by bank branches. So that can create the financial inclusion in our society. Okay. So if you see the financial inclusion, the definition, financial inclusion means that individuals and businesses have access to useful and affordable financial products and services that meet their needs, transactions, payment, saving, credit, insurance, delivered in a responsible and sustainable way. Then financial inclusion hochi kono that every individual should get the benefit of this financial services or banking services, and it is a part of this inclusive growth. Which of the following is correct definition of economic growth? Correct definition. Economic growth ମୁଁ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ କହିଲି କ'ଣ ନା ଗୋଟେ ହେଉଛି GDP. ଯଦି economic growth definition ଦେଖିବେ, components ଦେଖିବେ, ଗୋଟେ component ହେଉଛି ତାର GDP. ଯଦି growth in GDP, and then you can say the economic growth is happening. And what exactly this GDP? Then again this value of goods and services produced in an economy. And the other aspect is जो per capita income, that should be, or that should increase, or increase in the per capita income. Increase in the per capita income. When we say increase in the per capita income, there are again two types. One is this nominal. In the GDP case also, you will find one is nominal and another one is the real. When we say nominal, just remember these two difference, or this difference between nominal and the real. Nominal is simply, you can say, in terms of monetary value. Suppose गोटे लोकर जदि इनकम मासको 1000 टंका, से 1000 टंका सेटा होची केते 2000. That is what the increase in the per capita income, but this is in nominal terms. Real terms in the sense this 1000 to 2000, but with respect to goods and services. But with respect to goods and services. So if any such increase in income leads to similar increase in the money, or you can say the price level or monetary value of goods and services, let's say, available in the economy, तेणु जेतिकी इनकम बढ़ुची से अनुसार जदि प्राइस लेवल भी बढ़ुची इकोनॉमी रे, तेणु तमरो जो रियल पर कैपिटा इनकम विल नॉट इंक्रीज. सपोज 1000 टंका देकी आपण आगुरु जेतिकी प्रोडक्ट किणुथिले या गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज किणुथिले, द सेम गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज आज भी 2000 टंका देकी किणुचंदी, काहेकि ना इन्फ्लेशन रेट बढ़ी जाइछि, प्राइस लेवल हैज इंक्रीज्ड. In that case, we cannot say that real GDP has increased. In that case, only we can say this nominal GDP has increased, or nominal per capita income has increased. I hope I am clear. So, if you come to this particular question, which of the following is the correct definition of economic growth? Increase in productivity of labor over time, increase in productivity of the manufacturing sector over time, increase in per capita real GDP over time, increase in GNP. This is gross national product. This is not the actual definition or the meaning. If you see, then increase in per capita real GDP over time. Per capita real GDP. That means this real income sense re jodi badhuchi, then we can say the economic growth. So economic growth has two aspects. One is your increase in GDP, let's say, and the other one is the increase in per capita income. That should be in real sense. Okay. Now this is a statement. Who has given this statement? It was simply asked in question that we are trying to construct a more inclusive society. We are going to make a country in which no one is left out. Okay, so that means it's talking about an inclusive society. Then who has given this statement? The answer is the Franklin D. Roosevelt. Franklin D. Roosevelt, he has given this statement. Okay. Again, this inclusive growth in India can be achieved. Which of the following? Okay, A, B, C, D, options are there. Now, let me discuss with you what are these taxes, then I will come to the answer. प्रथमे देखिबा कि कौन ए कॉन्सेप्ट गुडा, ये प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्स कौन, रिग्रेसिव टैक्स कौन, प्रोपोर्शनल टैक्स कौन, एंड देन द विल फाइंड द आंसर. प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्स होची कौन, जेतेबेले आपण देखिबे कि इनकम बढ़िवा सहित, इफ वाई इज द इनकम, इनकम बढ़िवा सहित जदि टैक्स रेट बढ़िथिबो, ओके, इनकम बढ़िवा सहित जदि टैक्स बढ़ुथिबो, दैट इज द प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्स. Example, you can ask me, sir, what is the example? Example होची, suppose progressive tax रे आपण कहि परिबे income tax. इनकम जमती बढ़ी बढ़ी चलिवो इनकम जिते बढ़ी बढ़ी चलिवो टैक्स रेट भी बढ़ुथबो जमती इनकम टैक्स रे हम देखिबे टैक्स ब्रैकेट गुडा डिसाइड करा जायछि सपोज अप टू 5 लाख 1% of tax, up to 10 lakh another percentage of tax, up to 15 lakh या 20 lakhs 1 crore per annum तेणु जिते इनकम ब्रैकेट बढ़ी चलथिबो टैक्स रेट भी बढ़ी चलथिबो so that is what we call this increase in income increase in tax that is the progressive tax काहेकि जो मनकर ability to pay just there is a concept ability to pay those who have this ability to pay they can pay more taxes tax कोठी यूज होची government collects tax to invest or to spend in welfare activities तेणु जो माने जिते टैक्स दे परिबे they can give तेणु जे कम इनकम ब्रैकेट they will pay the less higher income bracket they will pay the more now come to the regressive tax regressive tax होची with the increase in income the tax burden is less or less tax decreases. Let me give you one example. Suppose this 10 rupees Parle-G biscuit 10 rupee Parle-G biscuit one rickshaw puller is purchasing the same 10 rupees Parle-G biscuit the Reliance this Ambani family is also purchasing. Let me repeat my example. The same Parle-G biscuit of 10 rupees this rickshaw puller जो गोटे रिक्शा वाला अच्छी सी भी किणुची and the same Parle-G biscuit of 10 rupees गोटे Ambani family भी किणुची. But who is feeling the burden? For the Ambani family this 10 rupees is nothing but a rickshaw puller obviously it's a significant proportion of its income. कहीं से दिन को 200 ରୁ 300 टका कमाउची 10 टका जदि ता पई सपोज से Parle-G बिस्कुट सपोज आपण कंसीडर करंतु कि 10 ରୁ 15 टका हे गला it's very difficult for him that is a consumption expenditure that significantly increased but for the Ambani family it's nothing तेणु ई सेंस रे कोन जदि इनकम बढ़ुची बट टैक्स कोन होची कमी कमी चलची दैट इज रिग्रेसिव सेपे मु आपन को एठी गोटे एग्जांपल देइथिली इनकम टैक्स जोटा प्रोग्रेसिव बट एठी कोन एग्जांपल एटा होची आपनकर इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स जेमति आगुरा हमर वैट थिला जेमति आगुरा हमर वैट थिला प्रति प्रोडक्ट किनले हमर टैक्स दउथले वर्तमान जेमति जीएसटी हे गला राइट तेणु प्रति जो किणुचंदी आपण जिंस आपण टैक्स दउचन तेणु से टैक्स रो अमाउंट द बर्डन is not equal for me one rickshaw puller and Ambani family. For rickshaw puller the burden is more, slightly less for me and completely zero or not a significant one for the Ambani family. तो regressive tax रो example होची indirect tax जो tax हमें pay करूचे कोथरे goods and services. Proportional tax होची कोन ना one simple kind of tax for all income bracket. Suppose 10% flat tax is collected for every income group. से अंबानी हो रिक्शा पुलर हो XYZ हो समस्त 10% देवे तांका इनकम रो. So that is proportional tax. Okay. So 3 types of taxes are there: progressive, regressive, proportional tax. Now, fourth option, by completely scrapping all taxes. We cannot scrap all taxes. Kahingi? Now, we as a state, we are a welfare state. So, we have to spend money for the welfare of the people. For the welfare of the people, those who cannot afford those basic amenities, for them we need to spend money. So, we cannot scrap all taxes. What we can do, and if you see what is the objective or inclusive growth can be achieved through which of the following, then you can simply say through a progressive tax. Through a progressive tax. Kahinki? ये तीनटा को टैक्स मध्यरु आपण देखिबे progressive tax is something which is required. Kahinki? Now, with the increase in income, the tax rate should be increased. So, the person who is earning, let's say 50,000 per month, for him, the amount of tax should be less than the person who is earning 1 crore or 5 crore rupees per annum. Are you getting my point? So, progressive tax is the one through which you can achieve the inclusive growth. And through that collection of tax, you can spend it for the welfare activities. ଆପଣ ଦେଖିଥିବେ ଯେମିତି ନ୍ୟୁଜ୍ରେ ଆସେ ଯେ I mean many such people they are not filing their income tax return, and it's a challenge for the government also. So income tax return file kahingi korunahandi. Income tax return file kale government should get the money, and government can spend it for the welfare activities. Okay, so let's next question. Which of the following is true about Hindu growth rate in India? Okay, let me tell you, first I will discuss with you the Hindu growth rate, and then I will come to this answer, right? Hindu growth rate, the concept, if you see 1950s to 1970s या 80s पर्यंत ये concept बहुत चलता. Okay, from 1950 to 1980 something. In that time period, in this 30 years of India's economic model, if you see, the economic growth rate of India was something around 3 to 3.5% on an average. 3 to 3.5% on an average. So average growth rate thila, it was something around 3 to 3.5%. Okay. So jo 3.5% thila, that means this 30 years, the Indian economy was struggling to break this cycle. And 85 onwards, if you see, upon the 85 onwards dekhoge, then you will find that 85 onwards, the growth rate started increasing. And the Indian economy started reforming it. And then economic growth started increasing. So, what is called the Hindu rate of growth? Now, why this Hindu rate of growth, or why this name has been given? The name has been given by this Professor Raj Krishna, this person. Okay, this person has given the name Hindu rate of growth. Why? Because as for him, India is a land of Hindus. So that is the reason he has given it. Right? Okay. If you come to the question that this is about social and economic growth of the Hindu population only, it's not. Displays high growth performance of certain sections of Hindu population in India. Again, this is not the right answer. Hints at high growth in India during this. Again, this is not. Upon the time period ko dekhive, from this 2000 to 10, it was something around, if you start from the 2000 till 2006-7, we had growth rates around like 7.58% also. And growth rate starts declining after 2008 due to the subprime crisis. So this is again not the Hindu rate of growth time. Exposes low growth occurrence of the Indian economy during 50 to 80. So low growth is what? This is the low growth rate. Okay. So Hindu rate of growth, which is, or Hindu growth rate is what? The growth rate or the low growth occurrence during this 30 years of time period from 1950 to 80. It was coined by this Professor Raj Krishna. And this is nothing to do with any such religion or something. Simply he thought, the professor thought that India is the land of Hindus. That is the reason he gave this term Hindu growth rate, which was around 3 to 3.5%. बहुत समय आपण देखिए तो experts or economists, they come with this terminology Hindu growth rate. So that is Hindu growth rate, which is very low growth rate of Indian economy during this 50 to 80. Okay. Next. Again, this Rostow theory of economic growth is that one criticism of the Rostow's theory of economic growth is that. Now, before I give you the answer or discuss the answer, let me tell you what is exactly this Rostow's theory of growth. See, Rostow is an economist and he gave the concept of 5 stages of economic growth of a country. 5 stages of economic growth of a country. And these 5 stages are this. First, one country starts with this traditional society. Traditional society means simply barter system. Okay, no such money was there. You can see the India's case also. India had this barter system, no modern currency system. Okay, so that is traditional society. Then preconditions for takeoff, slightly improvised with respect to that. Modern currency or modern currency system was implemented, and to regulate that we initially started this banking system. Before that banking, in this traditional society we had this money lenders. Okay, and then this currency system came and slight banking system also came, and that gave the boost to take off to the economy. Okay, and when the take off the economy, that means it will have a decent amount of growth rate. If you want to compare with the India's growth story, then you can say this Hindu rate of growth is something that take off, and then we got this drive to maturity, bit higher rate of growth, 6 to 7%, let's say. And maturity in the sense, you will find the real economic growth from this drive to maturity onwards. And then this is the age of high mass consumption, consumption of those durables, the advanced developed society. Now, this is his theory. And you know, every theory has the criticism. And Rostow's theory was also criticized, and criticized on multiple grounds. And the empirical data by other economists, they tried to find out the empirical data, and that empirical data did not prove this Rostow's stages of economic growth. I mean, the kind of explanation he gave, that does not fit to every economy. So that is the reason his theory was criticized. Are you getting my point? Tenu tanku criticize karagala. Tenu if you see on what ground it was criticized, answer is obviously all of the above are correct. That means the 3 criticisms are there. All these 3 criticisms are there. Much available data contradicts his thesis about the takeoff stage. Yes. Jemti ethi takeoff stage se kohujandi je after this precondition for takeoff stage means simply the growth rate started increasing. Okay. So, I mean, the conditions he developed or the conditions he gave for this takeoff stage, many countries we have seen, they have achieved that takeoff stage much before his analysis of takeoff stage. ମାନେ बहुत कंट्रीज अच्छी जो माने से जो फीचर्स गुड़ा को बिफोर दिस टेकअप स्टेज दे हैव अचीव्ड, उन्होंने अचीव कर लिया है. तो टेक ऑफ स्टेज जो रोस्टो की थ्योरी है उसको कहीं ना कहीं कॉन्ट्राडिक्ट कर रही है. ठीक है, अब वैसे ही देखते हैं. देयर इज नो एक्सप्लेनेशन ऑफ व्हाई ग्रोथ ऑकर्स आफ्टर टेक ऑफ. सो यहां पे वो क्या बोल रहे हैं, द मॉडरेट अमाउंट ऑफ ग्रोथ रेट. फिर आगे जाके वो बोल रहे हैं द ग्रोथ सिग्निफिकेंटली राइज इन दिस ड्राइव टू मैच्योरिटी. तो उसका कोई लॉजिक भी नहीं है. क्यों? क्योंकि टेकअप में भी तो ग्रोथ हो ही रही है. तो टेकअप में जब ग्रोथ है तो उस स्पेसिफिकली रोस्टो क्यों बोल रहे हैं कि यहाँ पे फिर ड्राइव टू मैच्योरिटी स्टेज से ही ग्रोथ होना शुरू होगा. तो अगेन इट वाज क्रिटिसाइज्ड बाय फ्यू इकोनॉमिस्ट. सेम मैनर his hypothesis of the stages of growth is difficult to test empirically. So the data जो वो अच्छी different countries, data suggests the theory does not fit to every country. Clear? Chalo. The most popular definition of sustainable development is given by sustainable development. जो definition वो उसने किसने दिया था? आप यदि ये options देखोगे, World Development Report, UNDP report, then this is Bertland is the agency who has given this definition of sustainable development. Now, next question is, what is this sustainable development? We'll come to that. Okay. Next is the Nehru-Mahalanobis model. Yesterday we discussed planning. And if you see the first 5-year plan which India adopted from 1951 to 56, that 5-year plan was based on this Harrod-Domar model. Two economists were there. So Harrod-Domar model. And they gave this idea of what? The saving and investment relation. Saving and investment relation which are necessary for the economic growth. Because you need to invest to achieve the economic growth, and from where do you you will get that investment? From the savings. The next 5-year plan, the second 5-year plan, which was from 56 onwards, we have seen that is based on this model Nehru and Mahalanobis. Nehru, the Jawaharlal Nehru, and Mahalanobis, the statistics, the statistician you can say, Prasant Chandra Mahalanobis or PC Mahalanobis. So what this theory or the model is all about? The model is, if you see the 4 options, you will find planned growth of the Indian economy. The second option, development of Indian culture. Third option, improvement of Indian education, and the development of India's foreign policy. Obviously, this is the answer, planned growth of the Indian economy, because this model was based on, or this second 5-year plan was based on this model. That is the reason we call this answer is correct. Okay. Now, again, the same type of question related to sustainable development, they are asking in a different year. So first time कहाँ पे ये sustainable development की concept दिया गया था, ठीक है? If you see the answer, again you have the same Bertland Commission report. Now, ये what exactly this Bertland, you can see sustainable development was developed for the first time in Bertland Commission report in 1987. Right? This has been asked in UPSC also. This Bertland report was published by the United Nations World Commission on Environment and Development in 1987. Okay. Now, I told you that what is the meaning of this sustainable development? Sustainable development is, the meaning of sustainable development is that simply you can say, if you are using the present resources without compromising or by considering the future generations requirement, that is known as the sustainable development. Let me repeat this. If you are using the current or present resources by considering the future generations requirement or without compromising the future generations requirement of these resources. So that is the concept or the definition of the sustainable development. Now, what exactly this sustainable development is? Sustainable development is a concept which is an overlapping concept in, if you want to say, between the economic development and or economic growth and environmental sustainability. Because whenever there is an economic development or economic growth, suppose industrialization started, suppose infrastructure started, infrastructure building, metros, railways, any such things are started, then you have to somehow you have to cut down the forest resources. You have to damage the environment. If you see the air pollution in Delhi, the government stopped the unnecessary construction activities, because that construction activities also creates pollution. Particulate matter also increases. Economic activities improves or increases this vehicular transportation. That also leads to this air pollution and all. Now, if you only focus on the economic growth, obviously somehow your environmental degradation or damage would be there. Your environmental aspect would be compromised. Then what we have to do? We have to make a balance between both economic growth and environmental aspect. So that balancing approach, what we call the sustainable development. So whenever you are using the current resources to provide the requirement of this present generation, at the same time, you have to remember that the future generations are about to come, how they would sustain on this planet Earth. Right? So this is what exactly the concept of sustainable development, which was given by this Butland. Also, we have seen in this, that means the Butland Commission gave this concept, what is the, the sustainable development. And the definition also I have explained before you. The definition is simply, without compromising the future generations' need and requirement, you have to meet the present generation's need. I hope it's clear. Okay. So we discussed today the economic growth as well as the economic development. As I have already told you that inclusive growth concept, I think I missed this question. Let me discuss with you. This is again this definition of sustainable development based question. If you see, it means optimal utilization of natural resources. Second, sustainable use and natural resources without considering the need of the future generation. Present generation fulfills its needs while considers the need of the future generations as well. So this is actually the answer and the definition of the sustainable development. And before I end this particular discussion of this topic, let me give you one concept, or let me give you the theoretical aspect of this economic growth, development and inclusive growth. So what exactly this? If you see that 1950 to 1980 onwards, the policy which the government adopted with respect to this, what we call the economic development, they could not achieve it. That was not successful. And the policy framework was the trickle-down approach. Trickle-down approach. What is the trickle-down means? Trickle-down means simply if you develop at the top, then automatically it will percolate or it will come down the bottom of the pyramid. That means when you increase the growth rate, automatically government will spend that amount which government will get from the economic growth for the welfare of the people. Let me simplify it for you. Economic growth jate adhika habo, government will get fund from that economic growth or revenue from that economic growth and will spend for the welfare of the people. That was the trickle down theory. So here first we have to achieve the economic growth and automatically it will be redistributed. That did not happen. One thing, we did not achieve the adequate or required amount of economic growth. Second, we could not redistribute it also. That is the reason till 1970 and 80 you will find this theory failed to reduce poverty, to reduce inequality, to reduce unemployment. So now this concept changed and we started developing what? A new theory, that is the inclusive growth. Okay, and this inclusive growth means without rely only on the economic growth, that if economic growth will increase, then government will adequate revenue and will spend for the welfare of the people. What we decided, let's empower those people, let's make them, or let's build the capacity of the people, then they will also contribute in economic growth. Automatically the growth rate will increase. So this is the difference between what we call the trickle down and the inclusive growth. Jehetu trickle down kama kala nahi, it was failed to achieve the targeted objectives. That is the reason government came with such new ideas, inclusive growth. That is, let's make part of all those people part of this growth process. That is the reason se gote term ku jo emphasize ame karuchu, create opportunity for all. Clear? So that's it from my side, and I hope you enjoyed this session, and if possible you can like and share with your friends, and tomorrow also we'll come with another topic. Yesterday we covered the whole planning, and today we cover this concept of economic growth and development, and tomorrow also we'll continue with our economic subject. Okay, and wish you all the best and happy Diwali.